Hey, Jason Andrew here. Today I'm joined live in the studio by Mark Denning. He's the owner and managing director of Fallon Solutions, a Brisbane-based home services business that provides trade services to customers in South East Queensland. Now, I actually used these services myself, and let me tell you, it was one of the best customer experiences I've ever had with a tradesman. So I made it my mission to track down the owner of this company, and here we are. In this chat, I talked to Mark about the story behind Fallon Solutions, how he grew the business from $2 to $50 million in revenue by investing in talent, customer experience, and tech. All right, let's get into it. Mark, hi.
Hi. How you going, Chase?
Yeah, good. So it's quite funny how we originally met, and this story is a subtle compliment to Fallon and obviously yourself as the CEO. So a few years ago, we bought a place in Brisbane, our now home, and we got a swimming pool installed. One of those concrete prefab ones where you drop in via a crane. And growing up, I never had a swimming pool, and I thought it was such a privilege to be able to use the pool. But as soon as it got, below 25 degrees in the Brisbane winter, it got too cold to use. So I found it odd that you'd spend, tens of thousands of dollars on a swimming pool, but you could only use it 1/3 of the year. So we decided to invest in a swimming pool heater, and we bought the thing, but we need someone to hook it up. So my wife and I were looking at, who do we use, what trades do we use to install this? And around the neighbourhood, we saw these Fallon vans around, right? So iconic white vans with the red stripes. Yeah. And we thought, maybe we'd give them a go. Like all our neighbours seem to be using them. Give them a call. And the guy rocked up, and I knew immediately this was no backyard operation, right? So it was just the subtle things, the little things which actually add or elevate the customer experience. And an example of that was, he rocks up. Firstly, we meet him at the door, and he goes, first he's like, where can I park my car, right? And that's a very simple question, but you're always thinking about, okay, am I going to block your garage if you're trying to reverse out? So we say, park on the street. So we did that. Next question, okay, cool. What are we here to do? Gives us a job brief, gets the job done really efficiently, quickly. Shows us how to use the instrument that we just paid for. But then he offered a full service, like a home inspection. It's like, hey, by the way, I noticed your electricity box was XYZ. Yeah. I suggest you explore this. And then, by the way, while I'm here, would you like me to just take a look at the house to see if anything else, just a checkup, right? Yeah. And it's just those little details in the customer experience which you just don't get ordinarily. And he had a clipboard. I could see there was a Salesforce platform or something, some digital form going on. Yeah. And I knew immediately that this is a professional outfit, which actually compelled me to that weekend go online and work out who is the guy that runs this business, who owns it. And it turns out I'm meeting with you today. So that's the background of how we met. I cold emailed you. We met briefly at your office last year, and we're now on the podcast together.
That's fantastic. Very rarely get to meet our customers these days. So.
Really? Yeah. So wonderful. So I guess for people who don't know you or Fallon, can you explain who is Fallon? What do you guys do?
Fallon Solutions provides trade services between Tweed Heads and Noosa Heads and out to Ipswich. We've got about 135 vans on the road, and we provide residential home services, so solar, electrical, security, data, gas, plumbing, hot water, carpentry, all those different trades into the home.
Gotcha. So it's a kind of full home service solution.
That's the long-term goal, is to provide most of the things that you need in the home.
Yeah, gotcha. So what are the things you don't do currently, which is on the roadmap?
So we don't do non-licensed trades like gardening and cleaning, those kinds of things. We did have a go at roofs, but we decided to not do that. So most of the other trades. Yeah,
okay. So anything which requires a ticket or a license to do, and I assume that's strategic, right? Because less competition,
more barrier to entry.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so, from what I understand, you didn't start Fallon originally, did you?
No, Neil Fallon started the business in 1962.
Wow.
And I went to Brisbane State High School, which is in West End, and his business was in West End. And as a kid going to the rowing club, you'd get to see the vans pass you on the street. And then I moved to Sydney and Perth and London and came back to Brisbane, and I was travelling too much for my young family, so my wife and I decided to buy a business, and the broker said that Neil's business was coming up in 6 months' time. He was going to retire at 65. Yeah. So I lobbed a bid in for it, and we were lucky enough to secure the business.
Yeah, wonderful. So what were you doing in your prior life before acquiring?
Years ago, a bit like yourself, I was an accountant, did tax and private business services. From there, I moved to tenders and after that I went to marketing, and then after that I went to general management. So I was looking after the 8th largest defence contractor in Australia. We had about 3,000 staff.
Yeah, wow. You say defence contracting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we did all the non-core services, hospitality, cleaning,
Facilities
range
management
management,
type
all of
thing.
that stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so you chopped. You say originally you were an accountant, like
Yeah.
I guess your foundations of business, numbers, P&Ls,
I love
etc.
the tax returns and stuff because I get to live and breathe the business from the digital side, the numbers.
Yeah. That's a lot of core reasons why I got into the profession as well for that. So you started as an accountant, moved into marketing, sales, so you really got the full experience of what it's like to run and operate a business.
Yeah.
And so so you're traveling a lot, you decide that, oh, wow, this is very taxing on my young family because I'm all over the shop.
I'd get home from Darwin or Victoria on a Friday night. My daughter wouldn't know me. She was 2. So had to stop that. Wasn't good.
For sure. And so you could have maybe found another job which was less demanding on your time. What was the decision path to go from rather getting another job to acquiring a business?
After being an accountant for all those years and seeing other people doing business, I thought that it's something I really wanted to do, and I thought that I'd had enough skills from my career path to be able to run a business successfully.
Yeah.
And we set out with a number of criteria to buy the business. So initially it was my wife and I. Then we decided to go a little bit bigger, and so my old bosses in Sydney said they'd go halves with me in the business, and they're silent partners. So
yeah, great.
They're both retirees, and so we wanted a business where no customers more than 5% of the revenue.
Yep.
That it was scalable, that it was low capital and high return on investment. So it suited me. The service business really suited me.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And so decision matrix around, you mentioned that you didn't want to go too small a business, so you with external capital.
I had to run the business. I couldn't work in the business.
Yeah, and that's a really distinct.
Unless it was an accounting practice.
Yeah, unless it's an accounting. That's a really important point, right? Because I think people a lot of the audience listening to this are interested in getting through entrepreneurship through acquisition, through buying a business, similar to what you've done and similar to what we're doing at the moment. And I think that the biggest risk of doing this strategy is that you buy yourself a job, right? And not to say that that's a bad thing, because people may say, oh, I just want to buy a job. That's fine. If that is the intention, you might be better suited to like a franchise agreement, because there's a lot less risk and maybe...
Again, we didn't want the franchise or being the boss.
Yes.
We didn't want Westfield being the boss.
Yeah.
We already had a bank that was going to be beholden to a bank, and also the licensing entities like QBCC and Electrical Safety Office and all of that. So less people that were controlling us, the better.
Yeah, so less variables for failure, right? Less influences, so less stakeholders ultimately.
Less stakeholders.
Yeah, so you went up the scale. So how did you find Fallon? It
was very small at the time. It was turning over 2 million and had about 20 staff, but it was just ready to go.
Yeah.
Neil had kind of sold a couple other businesses that he had, and he was just keeping it at a small level because he wanted to retire.
Yeah.
And so for us, the first year I could grow at 60%.
Wow. And you did that.
From 2 million base, it's not a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's still enormous.
Yeah.
So you take you like a lot of people who are looking to buy their business for the first time. How old were you at the time when you bought it?
I've been in it 20 years, so about 40.
Okay, 40. So a lot of people may not. I think one of the things is like getting people to take you seriously as a buyer, because if you've not owned a business, sure, you've run businesses before, much larger businesses, but unless you haven't bought a business before, and I guess you've got some accounting experience, so you know how to work your site with through financials. But some business brokers, some corporate advisors may not take you seriously as someone like, oh, you're just a guy looking to buy a business. I've got bigger offers, or maybe you're going to be too much hard work for me. Was that a barrier to entry for you, or did you experience that at all?
I guess what we did was we were lucky in this instance. I'd spent 6 months full time looking to buy a business.
Yeah.
My wife said, you got a month left.
Yeah.
And
right.
the first one I tried to buy, which was Pete the Possum Man, if you've heard of it.
I
didn't buy it because there's a lot of danger involved in that, being on roofs and different things. But we ended up getting this business right at the last minute before I had to go and look for a job again.
Yeah, wow, okay. So you had a personal runway or like the family runway?
And it was full time. So doing things around the house, playing with my daughter and looking at businesses and running the scenarios on them. So
And how proactive, so in the search process of finding a business, were you primarily working with brokers or intermediaries, or were you doing all outbound as well?
No brokers. Yeah,
Mainly through brokers?
I probably didn't do it the best way you could.
Yeah.
But we were lucky that the business we bought was going to market. So
Yeah.
there was only one other person looking at it at the time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I think that's a really important point because there is a lot of luck involved.
And Neil chose us because we were in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And they were in Melbourne, and he wanted the business to be in safe hands.
Yeah, fair enough. And so when you met Neil for the first time, what was that conversation like?
I couldn't tell you. He's a character, though. He's been around a lot. A lot of people know him. And he's just a lovely guy at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And was he skeptical about, whether you had
No,
the right
he
skills?
didn't seem to be. He didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
But he did want to get out. So we bought the business, and 3 months later he'd collected his debtors, and he was on the way to retirement. And I think he was the president of Brisbane Golf Club for the next year or two.
Oh, good.
That,
yeah. And how old was he when
65.
Okay, right. So that's at
Retired
that
on the
retirement.
65.
And now he's just off the tools and living life.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to him for a couple of years.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, wonderful. So you buy the business and you grow it 6% in the first year alone.
60, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you doing to what levers are you pulling to grow a business like that? Because that's 60%. You mentioned being humble and to say it was a low base, but 6% growth in year one is pretty great.
Well, it was quite easy. There was a pent-up demand for trade services, so it was about getting the right people on board, which was the hardest bit in those days. I had just come from running a public company or the division of a public company, so I hadn't actually thought about the cash flow consequences of growing it that quick.
Sure.
So my partners had to help me out in that first year.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had clean running. After that, we've slowly moved to our cash flow model where we do mostly residential services. They pay us on the day.
Yeah.
Then we pay our staff. Then we pay our suppliers.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's kind of helped grow the business that way. We got out of commercial work.
Yeah. Okay. So originally Neil was.
Yeah, we did projects and real estate work and
I see.
had a wide range of stuff.
Yeah. So you got accounts receivable or debtor days of 30, sometimes 60 days, depending on the size. And so you do the work. You don't get paid for 2 months.
Yeah.
But you still have to pay your staff.
So you're funding the business. So we moved it to that model, which works really well from what we've seen overseas and works well in Australia too.
Yeah, wonderful. So you do any, or is it?
We do some government work, but it's not our core business. So we might do a light up a football field for someone for a couple $100,000, but they come along and we do them, but we don't chase that kind of work.
It's interesting. Do you, in your experience, is there more margin in commercial versus resi, or is it the opposite in your experience?
Well, I'm not good at it, so for us there was less margin. I'm sure there's builders out there who are very good at it, and companies that support the builders.
Yeah.
In my case, it's a different culture providing service in someone's home.
Yeah.
To going to the construction sites where you've got unions and all kinds of other people involved. So we've avoided all of that.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea because I think that, whether you go B2B or B2C, I guess, is this instance where it was probably Neil, like the original Fallon business was primarily B2B by the sounds of it.
Neil's he had a good reputation for residential services. During the 1974 floods, he helped out a lot of people around Yeronga in that area.
Yeah.
And then they all remembered from that he did lots of good work.
Helped them out. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think there's all those pros and cons. I think the pros of potentially doing B2B is that there is contracted revenue, right? Or to an extent, if you lock in with one of the big construction builders, you know that they're always doing work. There's always work for you. Yeah. Where in B2C, sometimes you do your home services job, and then you have to go and find the next customer to keep the boys busy, or your work busy.
During COVID, we're essential services. We had our boom years.
Yes.
Whereas other companies didn't. So
I
think your toilet's always going to break. You're always going to need to replace your air conditioner every 15 years. Your hot water's going to die every 15 years. There's always going to be work there. It's how you get that work that changes, and we focus on repeat business.
Yeah.
Getting it through AdWords can be quite expensive. So, so it just depends on how you get the work. We've had a pretty good stream of work the whole way along. We do 45,000 small jobs a year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's my next point. Like customer acquisition costs for B2C can be high, but it sounds like what tactical strategies are you doing to move yourself on paid acquisition?
Businesses. So we do repeat business. We provide memberships to our customers, so they've got some complimentary services included.
Yeah.
It's only $60 a year, so it's not a big decision.
Yeah.
We're going to move to a monthly model soon. We're just building the software at the moment.
Yeah.
Once we do that, it's probably $10 or $15 a month. Works really well in the US. So we've got 20,000 members in that, but we've also got a lot of people who use us regularly over the years. You may only use us once every 5 years or 3 years. Some customers only use us for emergency work, and they get cheaper people in to do the bigger jobs. So it just depends, but we seem to always have the work coming in.
Yeah. Wonderful.
In the early days, we were running at about 75 to 80% repeat and referral business.
Okay.
These days, we're probably down around the 60 to 70%.
Yeah, and that's just because of scale, right? You're a much smaller business.
Partly we've put our pricing up to provide better service.
Yep.
So we've lost probably 10% of our customers that way, but we've also, scaled the business.
Yeah, so the business is doing $2 million back in, when did you buy it? 20 years ago? 2005, yeah. 2005. It's now doing, can you give us an idea?
Around 50.
Around 50, so you've grown it exponentially from them. What are you doing to grow a business from 2 to 50 mil in relatively short amount of time? If you take a step back.
Yeah.
You mentioned there was already pent up demand. So is this like
years it came along?
Yeah.
The first thing we did was instead of answering the phone, Neil T. Fallon Electrical Services, we answered the phone, Neil T. Fallon Electrical and Plumbing Services, and all of a sudden I recruited a really good guy, Mike, who runs that business for me.
Yeah.
And within a year, we'd had a decent plumbing business going.
Gotcha.
And then we did the same a couple of years later. We replicated it with air conditioning. So it was Neil T. Fallon Electrical, Plumbing and Air Conditioning, which was a horrible
it's a mouthful.
thing for the girls in the CSR area and the guys in the call centre to say. So we moved that to Fallon Services and Fallon Solutions for them. But so that's basically what we did. We just added services on.
Gotcha.
Then we grew geographically. We had a go at the Gold Coast once. That wasn't easy, so we pulled out. And now we do, as I said, sunny coast to the Gold Coast.
Gotcha.
Out to Ipswich.
What happened at the Gold Coast? That initial.
It's a different market down there from Brisbane. So Brisbane, we had a lot of repeat referral. We were going in cold. We didn't have an office. That more parochial. So I'd like you to be down there. But again, this second time we haven't done that. But the rates are lower down there. So people are happy to work 3 or 4 days a week and surf, stuff like that. So we're competing against those guys. So we had to go away and get a clear vision of what we're providing, which is a really responsive, high-quality service.
Yeah.
Not chasing the price.
Yeah.
Not worrying about the price on the coast. And the people that use us regularly know that we're more expensive than the guy who's surfing till 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever. But they're happy to do that.
Because we show up.
We show up when we say we're going to show up, and all the other things that we offer.
Yeah, so what was unique for Fallon's is like we called up, I think that morning, and they sent, someone came out that day, literally.
Yeah.
And I think one of your slogans is like same day service, right?
We run our job board, our dispatch board. So beginning every day, 25% of the board at least is available.
Yeah.
And then the next day, 50 and 75%. So we're only really booking out 3 days ahead.
Interesting.
So we need to be able to get the job flow revenue to fill that every day. There's a bit of pressure there.
Yeah, so you're intentionally carrying capacity, I guess, or people on the bench.
Yeah.
For those.
Yeah.
So to honour that brand promise, right?
Yeah.
That is an enormous amount of pressure because me being the accountant, I'm like, that's crazy. You just need to book everything in advance, so you've got that predictability in revenue. You're not carrying wages on the days that there's no job.
We don't have a lot of downtime, so we run reports at the end of every day to look at unsold capacity, and it runs pretty well.
Yeah.
Last month, I think in electric was only 22-hour slots not sold.
Wow.
And the guys will come in and clean their vans, or they'll do other things.
Yeah, gotcha. So they're not actually just sitting there bum.
Leave without pay or an annual leave day.
Gotcha. Okay. So if they're not busy, they'll make their time in other ways. If not, they'll take leave. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So you carry 25% capacity on the bench in any given day.
Yeah.
And so you're worrying, but you've got high confidence now that you can fill that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time we run into problems with our model is there's one day in summer where it's all of a sudden 33 degrees and humid, and we get 800 phone calls that day.
Yeah.
People don't plan ahead
Yeah.
for their air conditioning services.
Yeah.
And we sometimes book out for a month, and we've got no way of fixing that. So
Yeah.
there's just not enough guys out there that you can bring in, because we run a permanent full-time staffing model. So again, you can't bring people in for a few weeks and then let them go again.
Yeah.
Especially in our times where there's no spare capacity in the market for labour.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I imagine the seasonality, is that an issue for the business? Because I mean, if you've got...
Not really. It's air conditioning. So what we've built a model in air conditioning is for 6 months it's the season in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And 6 months is off season with a tiny little peak in winter. But what we do is, as part of our membership, is we offer everyone a complimentary condition report and filter clean for their air conditioner right through the winter.
Yeah.
And so our guys just go and do those through the winter.
Right.
And
okay.
on 30% of those jobs, the customer will be happy to do something anyway. They might have mould in their air conditioner or need a service or they might want to quote on a new one. So we do all right.
Yeah, so you're offering complimentary services, which you never. It's like going to Bunnings, right? I'm here to pick up a bag of soil, but you end up with like 10 items on the way.
That's it.
Right?
I'm always the same too.
Yeah. So the little upsells throughout the journey, which ends up becoming the job.
Well, we give options, and the options, it's really up to the customer if they want them or not. Our job's just to present them.
Yeah. So from growing Fallon from 2 mil, like what were there's obviously like general stages of growth in the business. Do you recall like
moving from
revenue phases,
providing different trades to the next stage of growth, we're about 35 vans on the road.
Yeah.
I went to Sydney to look at buying software for the business.
Okay.
And I ran into a group of really clever plumbers and electricians down there who are running a flat rate model. And the flat rate model allows you to provide a price to the customer as you arrive before you do any work. So part of that risk goes away from the customer.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than having a guy who arrives, you think it's an hour's work, and 4 hours later he's still there trying to find the fault. And so we provide the pricing up front. We take the risk. So most of the time we get it right. Sometimes we don't. But the model has enough, it's like insurance, isn't it? We've got 45,000 jobs. We're going to get some wrong. We're going to get some right. So we can do that quite safely for ourselves. So we build our whole model, our budget up from our margin up to the pricing. So once we did that, we just sat there and said, there's only 3 things you can provide. You can provide, like you said, we can be there today, or the highest quality. So that means providing quality LED lights, not just buying cheap ones, good quality trained staff, or price. We were trying to do all 3 and that didn't work. So we took our foot off the price one. And in that year, we almost grew 30 more vehicles on the road.
Yeah, wow.
In 1 year, our customers voted and said, yes, we like this. Even though the pricing was high, a lot of our customers are professionals, they're busy, they've got a family, got 2 people working. They want you to arrive when you say you're going to arrive. They want you to get the job done and go away again with no problems, and that's what we try to do now.
Yeah, it's one of those important lessons. Is like good, fast, cheap. Like you can only pick 2, you can't do all 3, right?
Yeah.
And that's a classic example.
Well, who knows what technology will bring in the future? You might be able to, but at the moment, I think it's still that way.
Yeah.
And we've focused on the quality and responsiveness.
Yeah, wonderful. That's awesome.
But first, a quick message from our sponsor. Are you tired of traditional accounting firms that only focus on tax and compliance? Looking for a financial partner that can go beyond the numbers and reveal the story those numbers are telling? SBO Financial aren't your typical business accountants. We're your dedicated financial management team, empowering you to take control of your finances and gain clarity and confidence in your business. Sure, it will keep your books in order and file your taxes. But unlike traditional firms, we'll also go beyond financial hygiene to give you the forward-looking insights and strategies you need to grow your cash and profitability. Picture this: a team of chartered accountants, CPAs, bookkeepers, payroll specialists, and financial analysts all working together to help you grow your business. With SBO, you gain access to a collective team of experts and specialists, providing you with proactive advice and analysis. So don't settle for reactive advice. Stop looking backwards and start looking forwards with SBO Financial, your partner in financial management and growth. Visit our website or contact us today for a free financial health check at sbo.financial.
So Mark, the home services can be seen as, let's take it back. So when I was looking to get some trades work done many years ago before I came across Fallon's, I would just jump on Gumtree or One Flare or any of these like online portals and look for a trades person. I think that's how most people probably look at booking any trades, whether that's installing a new fan or an aircon. How have you kind of differentiated the brand around Fallon's from people doing that as an alternative?
Again, it's the quality, it's the responsiveness that we can be there today. One trade contractors is what we talk about.
Yeah.
At the moment, we've got our Safe Hands promise that we're marketing through our marketing. So I guess from what you see in the US, and I do a lot of research in the US. I go over there every year, at least once, and meet with all the organisations. But when a guy starts a trades business, it's him and his wife. They might get an apprentice, and they're picking up builders work, they're picking up real estate work, they might have a few friends. So that's a couple of guys. They might get to 8 guys, which is quite a difficult step because then they've got to put someone full-time as an overhead.
Yep.
And what they're starting to do then is maybe local papers in the old days, they're doing some AdWords, might be SEO if they're lucky. Then the next stage up through the growth is to do what we do, which is hit everything. So social media, AdWords, blah, 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 the whole range of services. But
Fridge
also,
magnets,
Sorry?
Fridge magnets.
Yeah, fridge magnets, letterbox drops, everything.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
Yeah, we do a couple letterbox drops every year, 700,000, 500,000.
Yeah.
So they're pretty big and good return. But what the next stage is building memberships. And so what I'm seeing is the large companies in the US who are doing $500 million US, they've moved to brands. So they're hitting the mass media. They're on the radio, on the TV all the time. Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. And people then look for them on Google, but they look for their name.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot cheaper to do the AdWords thing. You've got the memberships and you just get back to the house every year through that. Yeah. That's where we're trying to head to.
Yeah, awesome.
So we're 6 to 12 months into our radio and building brand there. We've been around for a long time. And so we're hoping to move along that path. We've got 20,000 members. We'd like to go to 50,000 members. So we'll just see how it goes. It's going to take time.
Yeah, great. And so how are you're primarily a service-based business. How are you attracting and retaining talent in your business?
So again, it's very difficult. We always are training apprentices, but they leave quite often after they finish. We've probably got 10 or 15 at the moment. I can't remember, about that range. Plus we have some from Electro Group, which is a labour hire through the master electricians. Yep. And they stay with us. A lot of our people come from referral. A lot of people like working for us, so they'll tell friends about it. We offer a bonus to them if they can bring someone on. Plus the person joining gets a sign-up bonus. So you bring them in that way. We advertise and seek. It's getting more and more difficult to do that. Agencies don't work for us at all. We've tried that. They don't have any more success than we do on Seek. So that's basically the way we recruit over the years, and it's very difficult. And we're pretty picky. So you might interview 10 people and only have one that joins you out of that. So in the US, it's much better. We're really controlled by the government here as to how we can train up our labour. You can see on the newspaper, that's all they talk about all the time is the trade shortage. In the US, all these big companies have set up their own training schools. And so after, say, 3 months or 6 months, they're allowed to do one certain thing for customers without being supervised. Here, because we're in a home, they have to be supervised by a tradesman all the way through their 4 years, which means they can't really deliver a return even after a year or 2 years or 3 years. Different for construction, obviously, because you can have them supervised because everyone's working in the same place. So in residential maintenance, very difficult here to get the people. Over in the US, you could train your own. And a lot of the guys I know over there will go through McDonald's and other places like that. They'll see someone who's really motivated and has got the right spark, and then they'll offer them a position in the training school. And that's how they start their career.
Super interesting. So over there, you've got basically like a 6 to 12 month payback period on your team member because you can start doing things. Where here you're limited by what most people are going through a TAFE or a diploma.
You've got
apprenticeship.
4 years as an
4 years. That's the minimum. And then they can do work unsupervised.
And even if as a plumber, after 4 years, you then got to do your drainer or your restricted electrical.
Gotcha. It's not full. Yeah, that's fascinating. So that's been a limitation to getting new entrants into the model, which you think that's probably one of the core reasons why there's been a big shortage in skilled labour.
It's one of the reasons.
Yeah. What are the other factors, do you think?
Well, I think our schooling system, I came from a white-collar background. My parents are teachers. My family are teachers. I don't think the school system's set up right for tradespeople. They're don't want to be rude here. Some of the cleverest people I know are tradespeople, but the kids at the back of the school classroom, the guys who aren't listening well, they're kinesthetic learners. They're not visual or audio learners. So the school system's not set up for that. So, you know, they're going to want to work with their hands. And once they do, they learn really quickly and they're very good at what they do. So, as I said, some of the wealthiest and cleverest people I know are tradespeople.
Yeah.
The school system didn't suit those particular people.
Yeah, there's a lot of flaws in traditional education system, and you know, I think it's universal. Everyone acknowledges that. It's just like how
do you fix it?
How do you fix it, right? Everyone's got different ideas. Oh, like, you know,
Yeah.
I'll be a proponent of financial literacy, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy how you go through a tertiary education system, you don't learn anything about, you know, what is a mortgage, or
Yeah.
this is what credit card interest does, and all that sort of stuff, right? You walk out and you get your diploma and you work, oh, here's the brave, here's the world, you know, all these, you know, things like Afterpay and all these like kind of financial products, like launching at you, and you just don't know. You just kind of, cool, I'll just follow the herd and do what I do, and you know, 3 years later, you got this enormous amount of, you know, personal loans and debt, which you know is hard to get out of. Which is I think there's a lot to learn and a lot to improve on, but like, how do you change the education system? There's a lot of inertia around that. It's very political as well. Which
so to go back onto the recruitment, I think retention is a big part of the recruitment game. If you can retain your staff, then you've got less recruitment.
Yes.
So we do so many different things. Every one of our staff comes in for training at least once a week, if not once a fortnight. So they get to be in with a big group of guys. Yep. That's their team. They've got team structure. They're not, you know, one guy out on his own in a van all the time. We have monthly drinks at a pub or a restaurant. We have coffees and breakfasts and, you know, all those different things. We do charity work. It's just a whole lot of different things that touch different people in different ways, and makes it a stickier experience. If they bring a friend in, they're more likely to stay because they're friends in the business.
100%. Yeah, I read that like a key to retention is working with your friends. That's actually one of the core reasons why people go to work. Is not actually money's obviously a huge driver. You get paid more. It's like that's nice, but usually if you're working with your friends, it actually just cements retention and plays around.
But we've still got staff turnover. I mean, it's the industry.
Yeah.
Neil told me when I bought the business that they'll last 3 years and I'll probably move on.
Yeah.
But some of them are coming back too, which is really good.
Cool.
So we've got quite a few who come back after they've gone and tried something, which, you know, when you're young, you've got to go and try these things.
Yeah.
Some of them don't, but they've got their own businesses and we use them as subbies.
Okay. Yeah, right.
So within payroll tax and superannuation.
Yeah, of course.
So we've got quite a few that do air conditioning installs or switchboard upgrades for us and different jobs like that. So.
Yeah, awesome. So what are the reasons why someone has come back? They've gone and tested the waters of running their own business, but they've come back. What are those reasons?
Well, sometimes it's they've gone to someone else. They've told them that they won't have to travel much.
Yeah.
And they get there and they have to drive all over the place, same as we do. Yeah. On a bad day, on a good day they don't. So they come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess from your perspective as a CEO, like one of those challenging things is growing a business, a services business, is managing capacity and demand. So, you know, you mentioned there's been leaps in the business where you've grown 60%, you know, 50, whatever. You're having to also hire the same volume of demand, right? So how do you think about recruitment, like as a funnel, to get ensuring that you have capacity within the business to service the?
So we've got in our management meeting each week, which we go through recruitment. It's on the agenda every week. Yeah. I've delegated recruitment to each of the managers in the team. Yeah. And my wife Natalie, she's the HR director, so she looks after that side of the business as well.
Gotcha. So how is there what tools are you using? What software tools are you using to look at capacity management? Is that something you've got off the shelf, or is there something?
So we built our own software.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Right. So about 8 years ago, I think we wanted to. That's when I met these other guys. About 10 years ago, I met them in Sydney because I was looking at a product down there. That product didn't suit us, so we kept looking. We got a consultant in. They looked at Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, all the smaller packages that were out there. None of them really suited flat rate at the time in Australia. Yeah. So what we did was we went to America then and we started doing benchmarking in the US, and we found this product over there that was really good. It's called Service Titan. Oh, yes. A couple guys in LA built it for their family. Now it's $1 billion monster, and it's coming to Australia. But at the time, I spoke to Ara, who was the owner of the business, and he said we needed 300 licenses, and that was too many. We couldn't do it. So we would have had to grab some other people together. And so we decided to find our own people and build our own. And so we've got a team of guys who've built our software in the office in Brisbane.
Oh, amazing. So you've got your own, you've got internal tech capability.
Yeah,
to
we've
build that?
got full stackers in the office.
Wow. That's a huge overhead cost for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, so it's a separate entity.
Separate entity.
We'd like to commercialise it eventually, but at the moment it's still being built out to do everything we want it to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we've built the scheduling package. We've built the field that you saw in the field, the iPad, all the software in the field with the price book and the quoting, everything like that's all been built. We've integrated Dialpad, we've integrated Geotab, we've integrated HubSpot, and just slowly getting to the stage where it's all working as one entity, one big data lake. So
that's awesome. Love it. Switching gears, so I've noticed, so I'm a big finance and business dork, and I like to study trends and what's happening in various industries. And I've noticed in the US particularly, there's a huge thematic in private equity firms moving into the home service space. And I'm sure this is just some part of some cycle, if you take a step back, but a lot of interest in home services, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, you name it, and all of them residential for whatever reason. So a lot of consolidation happening in the US. Are you seeing? It is very exciting, and I guess a key player in Australia, that will be very exciting to you. Like, are you seeing that same thematic in Australia?
No, not yet.
Yeah, okay.
So in the US in the 90s, there was a whole lot of consolidation. One of them was called Blue Dot. They were run by stock market. They brought together hundreds of little entities, but they never brought them together.
Yeah, no
integration. They weren't integrated.
Yeah.
And so this round's exciting because there's a couple good products in the US, and hopefully we might have one of those in Australia, that can build together a platform.
Yeah.
And that's what's driving it over there at the moment. So it's being an essential service as well. And the guys in the US, there's a couple that I know that are heading towards the $1 billion of revenue.
Wow.
They're in the $500 million, 200 million.
Through roll-up.
Through acquisition.
Crazy.
And it's being driven because the software's there. So they can.
Yes.
So if you imagine you've got a $500 million company, there's like 2 to 3% of overhead in it, which is the consolidation bit.
Yep.
That's the software platform where they'll overlay a reporting system over the software. And then there's lots of entities where businesses like mine sell out 80% or 60% to the private equity group.
Yep.
And we continue running the business for them through our management structure. No change of brand in most cases. There's one called Gettle. They changed the brand. They Gettleize the nations, what they're doing. But a lot of the other ones, like the Wrench Group and that, they've just find good owners.
Yep.
And over time, they teach other people to take over from the owners. And then once they do the next role, then they get out. But small businesses over there get an 8 multiple.
Okay.
Businesses outside probably 12, and the big ones are getting 20.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
So you pay 20 for a big platform business or a platform? How do you get returns on that?
Their adjusted EBITDA over there is 15 to 20%. Whereas over here we're in the 10 to 15.
Okay, interesting. And what's the key difference in that EBITDA then?
Well, I think better systems, better operational platforms.
Yeah.
But also, from what I can see, their labour costs are less.
Yeah.
And they've got performance pay, so you don't have to pay anyone anything if you don't want to. So a salesperson in air conditioning, HVAC, will get basically
zero base
nothing,
commission
and 10% commission.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I've met guys over there who are working for people like me earning $800,000 US.
Oh yeah.
Because they've sold $8 million of HVAC equipment during the year.
Okay.
And their systems are all set up to get those amazing leads to these couple of people in their business who can convert them.
Understood.
So there's the membership structure's a lot better over there too. Everyone runs membership programs, which means, I was at Parker & Sons in Phoenix a little while ago. They're a really good company, family owned. They've sold through to the Wrench Group now, I think. They were just sending out 50,000 emails or embedded text links to book in the scheduled maintenance through the winter period. Yeah, that's amazing stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that here. What we're trying to do is build a portal for our customers, and we'll just get them to book onto our online scheduling system when they want to do it within Windows, so we can run that kind of business ahead as well.
Yeah, great.
Take a bit of pressure off that 25, 50, 75.
Yeah, for sure. There's a bit of a self-service. So that's awesome. So what's next for Fallon? What's the future look like? Are you exploring consolidation?
We
over
had
here?
one go at bringing a private equity partner in.
Yep.
Really nice people from LA.
Yeah.
It didn't go through. It was before the interest rates started going up.
Yeah. Okay.
And we agreed not to go ahead. They dropped our price at the last minute, but they're really, really nice.
Doesn't sound like private equity to me. So retrading deals, huh?
And I didn't think that would be a good start.
Sure.
So we've got another couple people we're speaking to, one in the US and one more locally, who are looking at things, but they're not around the next corner. So probably a couple of years away.
Yeah.
If they go ahead. So in the meantime, we're just working on operational focus, getting things right.
Yeah.
We did the due diligence for the last one, picked up no red flags, a couple of yellow flags, so fixing those things, getting the company structure right, just continuing to do what we're doing, but try and do it better, and surviving all the things that are thrown at you every week in business from every direction.
Yes. Yeah. Very familiar with those fires. That's awesome. Yeah. Did you find that the private equity space in Australia, you find that market a little bit more conservative? You find the Australian market?
I haven't really done anything in Australia around the private equity.
Yeah. And why is that, do you think? Is just you don't get inbound interest, or is it
I
just...
do.
Yeah.
It's not something I've tried to do.
Yeah.
I mean, in Australia, it feels to me like they think a business is worth multiple 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the US recognises it essential business.
Yeah.
You can generate good cash flow from it. So I'm more interested in that market.
Yeah.
So if I can put together and work with some other guys I know, put a couple $100 million of revenue together here, I think we've got a much better chance of building something that's going to last a long time.
Yeah.
In the future, I haven't done 20 years in this to sell it off and not care what happens.
Yeah. No.
I'd like to keep going.
100%. Yeah. Definitely one of those owners that care what happens next. So I think to your point, what I've noticed is in America, the market's a lot more liquid for these types of businesses. So they can pay 8s to 12s for these types of businesses because they can sell it for the 20s or the 30s in a listed environment. Where I think in Australia, you're probably looking at lower multiples because the exit opportunities aren't in the 20s of exit multiple of EBITDA, unless you list maybe, but they're more in the teens. And so the actual the multiple arbitrage or the gap is probably the same, but just at a lower rate, which makes it probably less enticing or less appealing for people selling, right? Because if you're at the bottom end of that roll-up model, it's like 3 or 4 times I might as well just sell it to the guy next door because they're offering the same price. So what value add are you really doing to my business?
Yeah.
Super
But
interesting.
arbitrage is exciting. That's what's driving it over there, I guess.
Yeah, I think the dry powder is looking for defensible assets. I think we just came off 10 years of investing in growth stocks or tech, software companies. Interest rates have really broken that model and the growth rates have come down. So looking at, okay, how can I get defensible cash businesses? Yeah. And home services being essential services, as you've said, is a good way nice place to park money. And I'm very bullish on that kind of boring business space away from tech, although you're tech enabled with all the stuff you're building.
I try to be.
Home services, essential, but back in the trades, where there's good cash flow if you're running a good business, and I think it really differentiates the sharp operators like yourself versus kind of the mum and dads or people who running it like a lifestyle business, which is probably a lot of your competitors, right?
Yeah, I think there's some very successful lifestyle businesses. There's lots of people in that 10 million range making good money. Yeah, very happy with their lives.
Yes.
So everyone builds a business for a different reason.
Yeah, and what's your reason?
I just like building the business. And I've got 2 retired investors, so they want good cash flow.
Yeah, and they're still the original investors that went in?
4 of us are still running the
business. That's amazing.
We have our board meetings, and it's really a dinner, but I tell them what's going on. No, we do. We have a proper board meeting. We've always tried to run the business properly, so 2 signatories on payments, the whole thing, So run it like it was when we were in the previous company. Yeah. Which is a division of a public listed business. So. Yeah.
So what can for people who have taken on investors or are looking to raise capital for investors, what lessons can you, because 10, 20 years in partnership with your investors in the same team with no exits or whatever that's incredible. Goes to show the amount of trust and that they put in you and vice versa. What lessons or advice can you give to people who are exploring that path, and what do you look for in a good investor?
So we'd worked together for a decade before that. So that's why we did it. But one of the problems we've had is that as they get older, they're more interested in cash flow and less interested in growth.
Yes.
And so that's constrained our growth. We could be quite a bit bigger if we'd had a different investor.
Yep.
That had a growth strategy in mind. Yep. So there's this lifestyle and security, and mine and Natalie's is probably the same as the security, but we've like to grow the business as well.
Sure.
So having a business, the difference then is I was the boss of the business.
Yep. Now
I've got a financial controller, CFO. I've got a CFO, chief marketing officer. I've got a head full stack developer. Got a training manager. I've got an IT manager. I mean, you've got
C-suite, non-revenue generating C-suite.
And I can go overseas for 8 weeks a year. So do things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is a better business.
100%.
It's a bit bigger.
Yeah, well, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm sure Fallon will continue to grow. And
definitely. Stephen, I went to India last year. Stephen came and ran the business for me. Yep. I went to Europe with the kids skiing this year, and Natalie ran the business for me, so it still runs. It's the strategy's the bit that stops, kind of thing. So if I was to leave the business, we'd have to get someone who can do a bit more strategy as well. Yeah,
wonderful. Well, I really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Mark. Thank you. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about Fallon Solutions and your journey?
I keep it pretty low profile. So
you do. That's why I had to find you. I had to find your email, but I found it. Do a little sleuthing.
It's a team effort. I'm just running the business.
Yeah. That's a very humble answer. So, well, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It was great to spend some time with you, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
Likewise. Thanks. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. To learn more about the secrets of uncovering your financials, unlocking your cash, and unleashing your profits, visit starknakednumbers.com and follow me on LinkedIn. I'm Jason Andrew, and this has been the Stark Naked Numbers podcast.